I guess he's ready. I now call order the regular session meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, February 16, 2016 at 6:30. Roll call.
Mayor Archie.
Here.
Vice Mayor Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Terrapini is absent and excused. Commissioner Banther. Here. Commissioner Seaver. Here.
Is Pastor Ken Vineyard here? If not, we'll ask our attorney if he would give us the invocation. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance following.
Lord, we gather as those seeking to improve our community. Whether or not we always agree, we are committed to making Tarpon Springs a better place to live for all of its citizens. Give us open minds, generous hearts, caring attitudes, and the courage and wisdom to make a difference. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now go to public comments on any item that will not be discussed this evening.
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Frank DiDonato. I live at 720 Woodmont Drive, Tarpon Springs, Florida. First of all, I commend all of you for your service to our community, as I respect all commissioners and mayors who have served in the past. I'm here tonight to confront an issue that I was accused of doing unfairly because of my respect for the job that you do and others have done after you, or before you. I has been accused by my opponent for violating the charter of the City of Tarpon Springs. I have before me the 4 people that served on the date that this letter back 15 years ago was written about the economy at our time in the position of the city as to the development of a commercial piece of property. Also, I would tell you that that same piece of property, which is known as the old Walmart site, was planned by the county as well as a major commercial development. At the time, we didn't have that. The biggest commercial development we had was Publix. We needed development, we needed jobs for our community, and that was the position of our commission during this time. Prior to this time, there was a major commercial site to be built called ABR. Some of you will remember that. In fact, it is sometimes known as the old ABR site, not Walmart. Walmart came in late 2004, 2005. I wasn't even in office. The letter was represented as the city's position at the time. The 4 people that I was proud to serve with are in this room tonight. All 4 of them have talked to me, and they felt that it was unfair for the representation of my opponent to even infer a violation. It was merely a letter that a mayor sends out as a position of its city and its commissioners. I would never disrespect the commissioners I served with. I will never disrespect any commissioner or mayor that has served the city because I understand the importance of the job and how hard it is. I'm not asking these individuals here to say a word because they've already said to me how they feel. They felt that I should come forward and make the facts known. The facts are, it's not factual. It's not based on anything that's true. I believe it was unfair and unprofessional. My integrity means as much to me as I'm sure your individual integrities mean to you. So I just simply am here to say that is not what happened. The commission that I served on at the time was fully aware of our position on that piece of property. It was not done without their knowledge. I would never do that. So for the record, I felt that it was important to protect any commission and the people who served that commission. And I'm here to tell you that these people that served with me, standing before me today, were fully aware, and that was the philosophy and feelings at the time. We needed major commercial development and jobs. And so, yes, that letter was written to the county representing that fact. At that point in time, the land square mass of Tarpon and our parks and recreation were 22%. 22% of our land was parkland. There was a park less than a mile from this site, and that was the position of the commission, was to develop it commercially because that was the higher need. Today, that situation is entirely different. That property cannot have a traffic light, for example, so a major commercial development will not occur there. So the situation today, 15 years later, is different. Now, I don't know if anyone here standing with me wants to say anything, but I will tell you this. They came to me and said, this is not right, we need to correct it. So I'm here on record in front of any who will listen and anybody who's watching on TV tomorrow to tell you it's untrue. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Anita Protus, 901 Bay Shore Drive. As former mayor, I cannot believe what was in that letter. We do not violate our ordinances. We do not lie to get things passed in this city. And from the very beginning with ABR, I was involved with that piece of property as an elected official. It's not fair to the citizens to mislead citizens. It's not fair to make statements that aren't true. And I hope that every citizen who has read that statement can come to the clerk's office. It's in black and white. Let me tell you, I took up my files and I spent 4 hours researching. Nothing that former Mayor Frank DiDonato did was a violation, and nothing that previous commissioners or mayors voted on. It's unfair to lead people to think that votes were made or discussions were made that were in violation with city rules, regulations, and ordinances. Thank you.
Good evening, Beverly Balearis, 1028 Peninsula Avenue. I want to also make a comment about what former Mayor DiDonato mentioned. I was serving on the commission as well as everybody that is standing here, as well as the current mayor was on the board at that time. We had many issues with the county, and if you remember, Mayor, there was a property on Carlton Avenue that the county, we were going to have a development on that. County came in and bought it. And at many commission meetings, we had discussions that we did not want the county to come in and start buying up commercial property that would take away from our future revenue base for the city. So the mayor had an ongoing consensus with our board, with many discussions about it. So that letter is false, and whoever wrote it should definitely rescind what he said. So thank you. Cindy?
Good evening. My name is Cindy Domino Sander, and I served on the board as a commissioner when Frank was mayor. I believe the gentleman who wrote that letter owes all of us an apology, not just Frank DiDonato. It was an affront to everything that we stood for, and he tried to negate everything that we tried to do as a board. I just want you to know that we support Frank, and I believe Mr. Owes us a big apology, not just for Frank, but the rest of us who served at that time. Thank you.
Jim Archer, 1414 Oleander Drive, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that's been said here today about Frank. I'm not going to be so kind as to cover it up. I'm just going to make a statement that what's the charges made about Frank is despicable. You expect this maybe in national politics where they're going at each other every day. I'm tired of it. But when somebody says something about this man, who's a devoted family man, been a great mayor, then I'm going to take issue with it. So whoever's responsible for this should come forward and apologize to this man here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments tonight? Seeing none, we will go to presentation. Item number 1 is general fund budget update.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Ron Herring, Finance Director. What we have here is we're doing the first quarter general fund update for fiscal year 2016 for the period October 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2015. And this first slide we put in here, it's a historical perspective of the unassigned fund balance as of September 2014. We put this in here because back then, about a year and a half ago, we projected unassigned fund balance going down for 2015 to be $8,024,271. Today, as of December 31st, 2015, the current perspective of unassigned fund balance is going from 2008, the 8.7 million, to 2009, 9.2, 2010, 10.9, 2011, 10.4, 2012, 10.5, 2013, 9.1, 2014, 8.8. And then in 2015, we have it projected right now of 8,820,443. We're still working on the audit and the financial statements. That could change some, but I'm hoping not. Usually we've done pretty good and we get it all in there, but the auditors are going to come in about 2 weeks, but we'll see if everything is okay. And then the last number, 2000, for fiscal year 2016 is a projection with just 2 or 3 months in, so it's like early projections here, but I've got it going down $5,000 to $8,815,443. This next slide is calculating the unassigned fund balance for fiscal year 2016, going from the unassigned fund balance at the year we're auditing right now, September 30th, 2015, of $8,820,443. I've tried to go through the revenues and see anything that's coming in changes from projections and budget projections. Utility tax, electric, like I say, it's early. I'm seeing it down about 40,000. Revenue sharing plus 25,000. Half-cent sales tax plus 20,000. Building permits plus 20,000 for total revenue adjustments of 25,000. And then I've tried to look at the expenditures so far this year, and I've got overtime for police and fire coming in a little higher at 50,000. Communication services 20,000, and some savings. Vehicle fuel, with the cost of fuel, we budgeted $3.25 per gallon when we budgeted, but obviously we're paying like maybe about $1.80. So we're seeing some savings in the fuel right now for total expenditure adjustments of the $30,000. And the net effect of the revenue adjustments of plus 25,000 and the 30,000 for expenditures is a net decrease of 5,000 for the 8,815,443. I mean, there's a lot of revenue numbers. I try to pick out the biggest ones. There's like 200 lines of revenue numbers in the general fund, and there's like about 400 lines of expenditure numbers in the general fund. So, like I say, it's early projections right now. I'd probably more, once we do the March one, we'll have a better picture, but this is what I'm seeing where we're at right now. I threw this slide in here. It's revenues and expenditures as of December 31st, 2015 for the current year and the previous 4 years. Just trying to show the lighter yellow color bar is the revenues that it came in at December 31st for each of those years, and the darker bar is the expenditures for those years. A lot of times the yellow one looks a little erratic there, is because sometimes when we get money from the county, they wire the money, and sometimes we get 4 receipts by the end of December, 5 or 6. That's why in 2013 we received 1.3 million more. That's why if you look in 2013, why that yellow bar is higher. It's just we received 1.3 million more than in the previous year. So it's sort of a timing thing, the money coming from the tax collector for the property tax revenues. This next slide is the unassigned fund balance, and what we're trying to show here in the lighter color yellow bar is the unassigned fund balance for the current year projected, and then the previous 4 years. And then down below with the darker color bar is the minimum required unassigned fund balance of 20%. So it gives you, sort of tells you where the unassigned fund balance is and then where the minimum requirement is for each one of those. This next slide I put in here, it's the largest revenue sources as of December 31st for the current year and the previous 4 years, and of course property taxes. That's the one that's been increasing the last couple of years, about, 350,000 a year. So that's why on the far left, that's the property taxes for the current year and the last 2 years. And the other ones are some of the other main revenue sources, and they haven't really changed too much. But like I say, this first quarter, we've only got 2 or 3 months worth in, so we'll have a better picture at the end of March. This next slide is trying to show the expenditures by category as of December 31st for the current year and the previous 4 years. And like I say, the lighter yellow color bar is the personnel services in the general fund. The middle bar for each year is sort of a burgundy color. That's the operating expenses. And then the smaller bar down there, that's the capital outlay for each year. And when I was looking at, if you look at the far right, going, why is that bar in fiscal year 2016 so high? And was trying to figure that out myself. And this is the first year we had 13 payroll periods in the first quarter here, is why that spiked up so high there. And that was the end of my presentation for the general fund. Open for any questions if you have any.
Well, I can tell you, I don't really have any questions. I thank you for bringing this forward and keeping us abreast, and probably try to hold you to that just $5,000 so far. Over.
I was having some second thoughts after I did the presentation.
But no, it's good for us to be able to look and to see where we're at now, and I just thank you for keeping us abreast as far as where we're at with the budget.
Okay.
With that, Commissioner Bowser?
Yes, thank you for this. This is very helpful, again, to see this quarterly. I'm just so happy to see that for this past year, we're down to 52,000 that we used out of the reserves total.
Yes.
When it was going to be $500,000, was that the projection?
For fiscal year 2015,
Yeah.
the one we're working on.
And I saw the page where you outlined various reasons, but was there any larger reasons? Is it pretty much, some savings in areas and then the increase in property taxes?
You're talking about the going down to 52,000?
Yeah, from our projection. What made it go down so low?
The 52,000?
Yeah.
Well, that's a combination of things. Sometimes when I'm closing out the general fund balance, there's when we gave the projection back in June, it was going down 42,000. So there's many reserves we have to adjust within the general fund. There's like 10, 12 different reserves, and the last item that the money ends up is the unassigned fund balance. So.
Because with this, Mark, didn't you say it was like a year ago we were like going to be 2018 maybe, and that was a hope, not really sure. So maybe 5,000 might be nice in 2016. We can be 5,000 or zero. That really. That's one of the main things that I campaigned on originally, was just my concern for use of those funds. And once we get down to where we're not using it, we can have the conversation about the property tax level, the actual rate, and then what type of balance the commission feels comfortable keeping in the reserves. So I'm just very happy, and it's no credit to myself. It's really staff and Mark and everyone that has found ways to save money, and I'm also hoping with Lowe's and the gun range coming online. I realize that might not be till 2017 we see those revenues. No,
I've talked to the property appraiser, and Lowe's is going to be on the property rolls this year.
Well, that's excellent. So I definitely think that's going to make a huge difference. So I think this is a very good day in Tarpon Springs, and we can say that our use of the reserves is down to almost zero. So
yes, well, we're getting there. And when we worked on the budget last summer, I think you said 2018. We're hoping that we wouldn't have to be using the unassigned fund balance.
I'll be very happy. Thank you.
But again, it's a lot of combinations. Besides the revenue, we've done a lot of work in-house. We've kind of taxed our people, and there has been some things we're a little behind on, but a lot of the in-house work, a lot of things coming in under what we expected. That's changing though. Prices are starting to go back up again, but we were able to take advantages when everybody was looking for jobs to get, that things were getting underbid. So that whole combination is getting us there faster. And like I say, it's only been 3 months. So it's tentative, but hopefully we see the same pattern. We are almost hopefully close to the balanced budget point now and for next year's budget. We're there by a lot of hard work and combination of things. And again, the revenues come in. We're hoping the gun range would get in too, but they're going to make it next year.
Okay.
They didn't quite make it. Lowe's by the skin of its teeth, made it to come in early, so we were extremely happy about that, but next year we'll have the gun range coming in, so.
Okay.
That's another good combination to get that to the point where we wanted to be in our budget, where we're not using the reserves.
Well, thank you very much.
No questions. Well, thank you for that presentation, and keep up the good work, keeping it down. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there any item anyone would like to look at for? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Move for approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Seaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next, we have special consent, item number 10, authorize mayor to execute contract for city attorney services with Trask Stand-On LLP.
Nothing has changed since our original discussion, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the board for its very kind comments at the last meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the proposed agreement or the firm services. We do appreciate your confidence in me and the firm.
Any questions that anyone might have? If not, then I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Seaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next, we have authorization of execution of interlocal agreement with the city of Dunedin for provision of construction, plan and review to the Dunedin Fire Department. This is a case where Dunedin lost their fire marshal, and obviously they're in the process of hiring another one, but in that time, they have some problems with the construction plans of the fire service. The two fire chiefs got together and then got the two city managers together, who then got the two city attorneys together, and we worked this temporary agreement. Chief Butcher is confident that 4 hours a week we could spare to help them with, without affecting anything that we were doing here. That's why you see in the agreement that for a temporary basis, we're giving them 4 hours a week for the plan review. If it goes over that 4 hours, then they'll pay us at a rate up to the rate of the fire marshal, up to $40 an hour to compensate for time. We're not expecting it to happen that much. And again, they will be in the process of trying to find the fire marshal to replace. But, you know, they have helped us with, you know, barricades and a lot of things in the past. And the cities, North counties are working together to help each other. So this is something to assist Dunedin in their time. And obviously in the future, they may need to reciprocate and help us with something. So, obviously, both city attorneys have looked and wrote up this agreement, and hope you go forward with it tonight. It'll be going to their board. I don't know when their board meet this week or
On Thursday night.
Thursday night. All right, thank you. I really don't have any questions. I think it's a good opportunity for us to continue our working relationship that we have with one of our fellow cities, and sometime we're in need too. So, anyone have any questions? Chair will entertain a motion then.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this? Seeing none, roll call?
Commissioner Seaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Next, we have ordinance and resolution, that's item number 12, ordinance 2016-01, application 15-109, Mears Town Center Special Area Plan Amendment, first reading.
Ordinance 2016-01, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending ordinances 2008-18 and 2008-19 by amending the Mears Crossing Town Center Special Area Plan, application 15-109, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. It's first reading of ordinance 2016-01 by title only. Second reading to be held on March 1, 2016, and will be published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on February 19, 2016.
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Dave Healy with Calvin Giordano and Associates. Heather said she wasn't going to introduce me tonight. She did at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting and said I was the old guy that used to work with the county, so that's who I am. I want to take the opportunity, if I can, too, to introduce my associate, Louis Cerna, who you haven't met but is going to be working with us and helping Heather with some other aspects of the Mears Crossing project. As the city attorney referenced, this is an ordinance amending two ordinances, in fact, that were adopted in 2008, 2008-18 and 2008-19, that amended the land use plan category and the accompanying zoning designation on the 17 or so acres of property that's come to be known as Mears Crossing, or sometimes now with the sign out front, the Mears Town Center, for the portion of it that's been built. In working with the city attorney and Heather, we've tried in the ordinance to outline sort of a chronology of what's happened since those ordinances were adopted in 2008. There was a series of things that happened in 2008, 2010, 14, and 15 that bear on our recommendation to you tonight, and we can touch on each of those. The ordinance itself and some exhibits are attached as Attachment 1, and the application from the applicant as Attachment 2. I've tried to summarize in a few slides. We're going to look. Let's see if we can do it a different way. It's not on. First one. It's not showing on the screen. We're seeing it here, but if you'll bear with us just a second. So much for my graphics. Okay, we'll do this on the fly. These things are in your backup, so you can refer to them. I just thought it'd be easier, given the setup, to refer to them. Okay, here we go. All right. The original concept plan that was approved by those two ordinances in 2008 is represented by this conceptual diagram here for the entire 17 acres. It consisted of the Winn-Dixie store and the retail center that is there now. It included those two lighter shaded U-shaped buildings that were proposed as residential use, and north of that, some office and senior housing, and additional office and research facilities on the frontage on alternate 19. That plan and all of the narrative behind it that described it in detail provided for a number of entitlements consisting of a maximum of 362 residential units made up of the 242 apartments and potentially 120 units of senior housing, some 230,000 square feet of non-residential floor area, 75,000 square feet of commercial, and 155,000 square feet of office and research use. Of that, only a portion of the 75,000 of commercial space has been built with the Winn-Dixie Center. What is proposed to be amended in two separate phases is shown here. And the buildings to the south, the 5 buildings south of the Winn-Dixie building, which I think you can recognize there, are proposed apartments. They range from 2 stories over parking for the forwardmost building next to the north-south street to 4 stories for the building closest to Winn-Dixie, the other 3 buildings being 3 stories. There are proposed altogether some 236 apartment units there, slightly less by 6 units than were originally authorized. Other features of the proposed amendment include the green shaded areas for future development on the frontage on alternate 19 and what has been referenced as an interim stormwater management facility shown in blue. Subsequently, in a future phase, hopefully, the remainder of the site would be developed essentially as outlined in the original concept plan, where that frontage gets filled in with other office, potentially additional residential use, senior housing, and research facilities within all of the entitlements. So while they're not using the entirety of the site that remains to be developed, all of the original entitlements remain, and hopefully at some point, future date, would be developed in addition to the 236 residential units that are part of this current phase that is proposed immediately. I wanted to show the commission exactly what stays consistent with the original plan. And that includes the multifamily apartments, as I mentioned, simply 6 fewer units than originally entitled. Because it's spread over a larger area, about 6.5 acres, all of the area between the Winn-Dixie and the south property line adjoining the hospital, obviously the actual density is diminished in relationship to the larger area being used by the apartments. The main entry roadway and the traffic circle off of alternate 19, as well as the main north-south street that was to be the main boulevard, remain exactly as they were proposed in that original plan. One of the important points in the original plan that was stressed was connection with the hospital property, and that is included in the revised plan. That remains a part of the plan, so the two properties are interconnected. There'll be connectivity there, both vehicular and pedestrian, that will help traffic movement to and from the site. And lastly, as I mentioned, all of the other development entitlements remain, and at some future date could come forward under separate site plans for development of the remainder of the property. There are a couple of things that are different that we also want to call to your attention. As you saw from the diagram in the backup, the 5 apartment buildings are situated different than they were in the original concept plan. They're somewhat more spread out. They occupy a larger area. And there is no then specific designation for office or senior living between the apartments and the hospital as was originally contemplated. The configuration of the apartments is slightly different because they're separated in a series of buildings rather than the 2 large U-shaped buildings. One of the requirements in the original plan was that those apartment buildings line the street, be brought up to the street face along that main north-south street. That's not the case with some of the buildings now where they're offset. The larger of the building over parking on the front is, of course, at street face, and that's something we worked with the developer to maintain that original concept. And then lastly, because it is phased development, obviously we're only dealing with a component of what is proposed ultimately. With the remainder of the parcels to be developed, you'll see in our conditions that when we get to the site plan level, it will be dealt with separately subsequently at the March 1st meeting. If you move forward on the amendment to the special area plan, that it is conditioned on separate platting and site plan approval for those remaining parcels to be developed. I've noted in our staff report, it's not unusual. We're dealing with, 8 years later from the original concept plan, which was very conceptual, that things would have changed and be done in stages. So we don't find that to be unusual or different, given the market conditions do change over time. We did investigate thoroughly the issue with the Pinellas Planning Council and the countywide plan. This was approved as a special area plan under that countywide planning process that Mayor Archie served on the Planning Council, and I see Mayor Valeris here that had served before. There is a specific process. Heather submitted it to the Planning Council. They've determined that it's what they call a Tier 1 amendment, which means it's been approved at the staff level as being essentially consistent with the original concept, meaning it didn't change the boundaries of the district, it didn't change the permitted uses within the district, and it didn't increase the density within the special area plan. So on that basis, the Planning Council has signed off, and this commission is free to act on it as you see fit without any further review on their part. Obviously, your technical review committee has reviewed the plan and recommended it be approved, subject to a number of things that will be addressed separately in the site plan, as did your Planning and Zoning Board that recommended to you by a vote of 4 to nothing that it be approved. I've skipped some of the slides. I think I've touched on these. We've gone back to the county. We find it consistent with the overall objectives of the original mixed-use project. Both the Planning and Zoning Board and the staff have recommended approval subject to conditions, 4 conditions that are very important. And these I'll touch on in some detail. The first is that it is being approved subject to those specific graphics and representations that are attached to the ordinance. So if there were a deviation from those, it would need to come back to this commission for further amendment of the special area plan. Secondly, completion of Mears Boulevard consistent with the local funding agreement as set forth in Resolution 2008-52. Your city manager made it very clear a year and a half ago when they began talking to us about this, that this was going nowhere till they met their commitment to extend Mears Boulevard. That was a critical part of that original agreement, and obviously very important to the city that that extension get completed. That condition is included here then as a condition to the approval of the amendment to the special area plan. A further condition that may have been forgotten over time, one of the things that happened after 2008, when the city approved the plan and zoning amendment, the state of Florida sued the city and ultimately negotiated a settlement agreement that was embodied in an ordinance that the city approved in 2010 that required the applicant, the developer, to at least fund and develop a study for the potential hardening. If I would turn to the slide, you could read it with me. The hardening of the First Methodist Church as a potential hurricane shelter. One of the issues the state had when the plan was approved is the potential for additional residents that might have to evacuate in the case of a hurricane. We know there isn't sufficient shelter space in all of Pinellas County, let alone in Tarpon Springs. This was one of the conditions the state imposed, the city accepted, and we need to carry it forward to be in concert with that earlier commitment. It doesn't mean that it'll happen, meaning the church may or may not accept to do it, but at least there needs to be the determination about what would the cost be, what would have to happen in order for that to qualify as a hurricane shelter. And the applicant has acknowledged and agreed to meet that condition. And lastly, but equally importantly, as I've mentioned, there are really two pieces to this equation that will move forward together. And as the city attorney said, when this comes back to you, if you move it at first reading, at second reading on March 1st, you'll see the accompanying site plan to be considered separately and pursuant to all of the requirements of your site plan approval process. Mr. Cern has been working on that with Heather. It is in a form to be brought forward to you at that next meeting in concert with your second reading here. There are a number of specific conditions that we get into with regard to that, having to do with all of the details about permitting and what has to take place before they can draw a construction permit to move forward. So wanted to make sure the commission understood that this is one piece of the equation. That second piece will catch up with you at second reading on the special area plan amendment should you choose to move it forward. With that, I'll be glad to try and answer any questions.
I guess the first question is the developer has agreed to those recommendations that are being set forth here. I know you said the one that they have as far as the hardening, but I didn't hear.
I don't know if they're represented here tonight. They did represent at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting that they concurred with all four conditions, Mayor.
Any question for Stephen? One thing that I would suggest, and I probably won't be around, to deal with it, but I know we've talked about that road going through. I think that we should try to research what it's going to take as far as putting the sidewalks and the rest of that in. And I say that because I've seen the other end of Mears going out to the highway. I see people walking up and down it all the time. That's a long stretch of road. I'm not sure how much lighting that we're going to have on that road, but people tend to go very fast. So I just ask that as we move forward with this from within the city, we look at it. I'm glad that our unassigned balance is looking good. This is something that I think is what you use that for when you're looking at a one-time expenditure. But there's probably other dollars that we could, and I'm just saying that as we move forward, that we can kind of see, still looking at that livable, walkable community, and to have a stretch of road through there with no sidewalks on there, I think would not be the best situation.
No, that's going to be incorporated into there. In fact, when they go to design and build it, we'll have the option either to on our own or work within their contract We've already got the plan set to do the sidewalks and stuff, along with that. So the whole piece, what they're obligated to, and what, as you said, we need for the safety and the walkability, we've been sitting with the money waiting to do that for. We just needed them to do the main part of the road. So those money for sidewalks and those amenities and to make sure that's going on, so we do have that going. We'll go along with that plan, whether the deal is good enough for them to incorporate it and save us money doing it there, or we have the option to do our part on our own, and we'll examine that when they get down to the building of the road. We'll examine which option is best for us, but those will be at the same time. So when it's finished, it's a finished project, both with what we want as a city and what they're obligated to pay for the road.
All right, sounds good to me. If there's no questions, then Chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Any public comments? Roll call?
Commissioner Seaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Healy. Next, we have miscellaneous items, and item 13, to authorize staff to proceed with Richard Irvin Park improvements.
We have been talking a while about doing something. I know it's come up several times of doing something with Richard Irvin Parkway, which is our only city property and city park that is on Lake Tarpon. It's a place the people in Tarpon know. When I was Commissioner Larson's son's age, we used to go down there and swim in the swimming hole there. That used to be the swimming hole for the time. So the park has gone through all different stages. It's gone to, it's had its heydays. It's had its time when jet skiers caused havoc and you couldn't get around there. It's had its time where it sat in just disarray. So since it is our only asset on the lake, we've always had planned to, when our project was done at the end of Live Oak, which I understand we're one step away from getting that canoe kayak launch to finally finish that project that we've been waiting on. But what we want to do is get on this because, as we know from permitting things, one of the main features of this improvement is a dock, so that people can walk out around the trees that are on the edge of the park and walk out and have a view and look on the lake, whether they're fishing from it or observing the lake. And that's the portion which will be a lot simpler than saltwater permitting, but it'll be involved in permitting. The main features of this park is just to make it a better passive park, a place to eat lunch, have picnics at. Mainly it's going to be cleaning a lot of it up, adding some more green space by taking the circular drive off and having one entry and parking and some more green space. The possibility of putting a small playground. It's just putting some nice shelters for the picnic and lunch and adding trees and just making it a beautiful place. Also a place for non-motorized boats, canoes, kayaks, if they just a little place for them to be put in the water. So, but to begin this process, the main portion of it is that dock that we want to start pursuing. This is all a project that will come out of recreation impact fees. So it doesn't really have a budget effect except for that money that's been set aside there for a while to do. I'm glad to have two of my design engineers in the audience. Commissioner Larson's son came out with me and we walked it and they used their expertise at what they would want in a park to help with. So obviously I'd like to get started. You've got some pictures of before and after. You just got a simple drawing. It's really just simple. We're going to clean it up, pave it, add some pavilions, a lot of green space, and the dock for people to walk out and enjoy the view of the lake. And we like to get started and get going on the dock project first, since that's the project that's going to dictate, you know, a good portion of the cost. Hopefully it's going to come in a lot less than we think, but in permitting and stuff, we need to see that portion of it first. And then a lot of the other stuff is going to be done in-house. Will be in-house work with the concrete, adding the green space and that sort of thing. Later on, after we see what's done, we'll start dealing with the pavilions and stuff. So just wanted to bring this forward to you and get your endorsement to start proceed and see what it takes to permit that dock and get going on that portion of the project.
Well, first, I just want to thank you and staff for bringing this forward. You know, I'm a couple of days older than you, and I can remember what it was like at one point in time, and it's been not one of our best treasures in a sense of how it's kind of went down over a period of time, and I'm glad that we still are looking at making it still pass it, and it'd be something really for the neighborhood. I know that in the past, there was a lot of concern about, where you're gonna park your trailer and all that stuff there when they could launch their boats there. So I'm glad that we're talking about kayaks and those type of things, and hopefully it's more of a neighborhood type of park that represents the city well. So I'm glad that we're doing some things there that will make it something that we're all proud of. So. Any, Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I'd also like to thank staff for bringing this forward, and I think this is a good opportunity to improve what is currently an underutilized asset for the city. And like the mayor, I like the fact that we're talking about canoes and kayaks and foot traffic and things of that nature. I don't think it's appropriate at this point to talk about motorized boats. One question or comment I had, I'm fully in support of making it more kayak friendly, and I want to make sure that we are accomplishing that. Is it envisioned that somebody who wanted to launch a kayak would do that from the dock itself, or should there be a separate kayak launch?
Probably that area, we'll have that area designed from when we see we're designing the docks, between the docks and the property line, that little gap you see there, that'll be the ability. We want to try to make it as much of an ability to be able to launch that, but to discourage people who may try to sneak in to do other, but we'll make it clear and make it of such a way that it's only those non-motorized things that will be launched there and the enforcement of that. So once we see the design of the dock and where it is, we'll be able to show you better that canoe kayak launch. But again, that's the importance of getting that dock designed, and they will know when they design it about the ability, a place to carry canoes and put it into the water, or paddle boats or something like that to be able to put it in the water. So that'll be incorporated when we do the design, and we'll be able to show you much better when we see how we have to do the layout of the dock.
Very good. Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Seaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. And that concludes our agenda. You have anything, sir?
No, thanks for coming. But tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Blue Alert will be dropping off a chair that they're donating to the police department. It's an honor chair in memory of Officer Condact that we'll put in a position of honor within the department. I just want to let you be aware of that.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney?
No, sir.
City Manager?
First of all, I just want to lay out a little bit of what is coming on in the upcoming meetings. Unfortunately, I won't know until tomorrow. I'm still hoping, especially with some of the things we got going, that we'll be in the auditorium next meeting, although there are some kinks in the system that may not. But hopefully we're there next meeting, because we got some presentations, some things we're trying to do with the Top Apple, and some things that we really need to be in the auditorium. But there may be a circumstance beyond our control where we may not, but that's what we're hoping for. And we're hoping on finishing all business that we have as much as possible in that first meeting of March, so that the 15th meeting is very short, and so that being an election night and other things going on, that we're out pretty soon. So right now there's not much. I know there's a presentation we have on the agenda, and hopefully we don't have to move anything from the first meeting of March. And then, of course, the May meeting, April 5th, is the ceremonial meeting, to do that. So that's kind of the outline of the meetings coming up. Hopefully we'll get most of the things done and finished up by this board on the first meeting of March. The second one, if we have any items that are left over or emergencies come up, but I hope to get you out of there early on election night for that meeting, and then the ceremonial meeting the 5th. The only thing I have for you, I gave to you, and unfortunately, because of the ordinance that you'll see in there, some of the things I would have liked to have it done with this commission, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it. It's an issue that came up during the first process of Lowe's going, and it involves that street. If you know, when the Acme Sponge deal and Lowe's came in, that little street was put that connected Live Oak and Spruce Street. It's called, right now, it's called Huey, although if you look on a map, Huey jets down and goes another way. It really looks from a map like extension of Live Oak, but it's kind of really a street out there. And there was talk, I don't know if it was with some commission, but I know it was the city manager, about the naming of that street, that little portion from Live Oak there, which presently there's no addresses on it, for Michael Cantonis and the Cantonis family. We had talked about it. Obviously, after that, the Lowe's project went out, but with it coming back, I know the families approached me and maybe some of you to bring that up again. I've attached with you just briefly about Mr. Cantonis and what he meant to the community, a little outline of the one section of street that we'll be talking about, and then the regulations and ordinances that we have to do that. Again, unfortunately, you know, I don't think we'll be able to get it done in this commission, but it will be brought forward. You'll see in there the several ways it's going to be brought forward, whether it's by the mayor, commissioner, by residents, by vote. There's several ways to bring it forward that we can do, but this will be coming up, and we'll start. In fact, the city attorney and I is going to talk about it tomorrow. He's up here for our staff day, and we'll talk about getting the process going. But because this commission, we got two people going off that's been here the whole 6 years, the Lowe's process and the Acme Sponge and acquiring the land and building the road to do that. I wanted to bring it up tonight to you who may be off, but it's something that we had talked about and I think is something that we should do. And however, I know it'll be brought up in the commission. So I just want to make you aware of that and let you know that they'll be coming up on a future agenda.
Thank you, actually, you know, for keeping that alive and them keeping it alive in terms of doing that. We all know that family had a lot to do with Lowe's, you know, being there too. So I have no problem. Madam Clerk. Commissioner Matthews.
No comments.
I heard the Citizens Academy is doing well. I haven't had a chance.
It is. Well, you can come tomorrow night if you want to. It's at the police department, I believe.
Well, if I'm disabled to clone myself, I might make it there to the forum and to Bible study. I'll do it all. Vice Mayor.
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Stewart.
No comments, thank you.
And I don't have any comments, so we'll adjourn at 7:23. And y'all still can have my candy. Just gonna sit here, I'm not gonna mark on it, just sit there and come back.
I think he's taking a step.
We're not going to let that down. We're not going to let that down.
Nor should we.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job to you.
Oh, wow.
Good idea, y'all should include me in. I might have to some of it come back, you know? How you doing, sir? How's life? You doing well? Well, always good to see you.
How are you? Good to see you. Thank you.
I got some Saturday.
Two, yep, these two.
Oh, it just say your name, but I'll look for it.
I know, right? Where's the other guy?
Got one here, one behind you.
How you doing? Good.
Where's my
I
boss?
don't have a voice, but I'm feeling okay beside the voice.
Oh, this might be just yours. Let me ask the boss. Hey, boss.
Yeah, I got it.
Irene.